Welcome to Ask a Celebrant, a conversational podcast answering your questions relating to all the commemoration and celebrations of all the chapters of your life. I'm Berni B, full life celebrant.
And I'm Dinah Liversidge. Hi everybody and welcome to Ask a Celebrant with Berni and Dinah. Hi Berni.
Hi, episode 3. Oh my God.
I know, can you believe it?
I know.
And after the fabulous drama that was episode 2, that was so totally unexpected and so wonderful. And I suppose we should tell everybody we are now in the planning stage.
We are. I know. He, John, my partner, agreed with my unexpected proposal because we're not getting married. It's not a wedding. No. John and I, just to recap, but you'll have to listen properly to the episode 2 if you haven't already to get the full force. I found myself suggesting that I would love for Dinah to officiate a celebration of gratitude and our journey. My partner and I, John, we have been together for 27 and a half years, since I was 20 and he was 30 and and life has changed several times over that, and we have overcome several things, and and life is is what it is when it is. And I just found myself, when we were talking about love last episode, saying I would love for Dinah to create an intimate celebration for John and I in her woodland under the starlit sky, where we share gratitude and reflect on our journey and make promises for our hopes for the future. And we're in the process of planning that now, Dinah, haven't we? And
we are, and it's wonderful. I'm so excited to be part of it.
And the only person who do that for me.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's kind of led to where we are today and what we're talking about today, because I think we triggered a lot of people thinking, do you know what? There's something I want to celebrate. There's something I want to acknowledge. And just like Berni feels, it's so important to me that I need to know there's a way of expressing this. Yeah. And so we've been asked, what are the celebrations that are available? Are there these sort of guidelines? Is it a vow renewal? Is it a gratitude ceremony? What does that look like? And for us as celebrants, the wonderful answer to that is that a ceremony can be whatever you need or want it to be. From acknowledging the life of somebody lost to celebrating the life of somebody born and everything in between. We can create a unique thing. And so today, that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to talk about some of the things that we've done, some of the celebrations we know other celebrants have created, and maybe just get that seed of your imagination going a bit to really grasp this concept of celebration and what that could mean in your life.
Yeah. I think what has become apparent to both of us since we became celebrants a few years ago is that we've had these wonderful opportunities to talk to families across generations and see them through their journey. So I mean, for you especially, because you've been doing it a bit longer than me, you have become family celebrant to people, and you've seen that family in their grief and in their joy and in their new beginnings and in their endings, and you have celebrated with them, and because of that journey you have also helped them to realize, and I have managed to help couples and families realize, there are opportunities in our journey through life where we can escalate a celebration from something that's more than just a thank you, let's have a party, a dinner party, let's go out to dinner, and make it something just one step more, something a bit more momentous or a bit more symbolic of
I think you're right. And often couples that I've worked with for, particularly one of the things I've been lucky enough to do is a couple of surprise ceremonies. So one person in the couple wants to make this big statement to the other and say, often, do you know what? I know we need to acknowledge what just happened. I want to mark this as a new chapter. I want to show you this is really important to me. And when we do that with somebody there, like a celebrant, it takes on a whole different dimension. It's not just that moment where you said, thank you for getting me through a tough time, or wow, I couldn't have done that without you, or sorry, I messed up, but I want you to know that I'm absolutely 100% committed to getting it right now.
Yeah.
When somebody else comes and says, so how does that look? How can we craft that in a way that shows the care and the thought behind it? It does take on a different dimension. How often in our lives have we looked at a moment and thought, oh, I wish I'd had the words, or that's what we're there to do, is to help find the words that feel authentic, that feel you and real and appropriate, but that perhaps you yourself would have struggled to find or express. And then with our experience, we can say, you know, when we take those words and we put them in this order, or we craft them in this way, or we put them in this setting, we create a memory for you that will always be part of your lives going forwards.
And that's the thing.
I think that's really special.
Yeah, and you're right. It's not just the words and the content. It's the setting and the rituals that go with it, and those can be existing rituals or uniquely crafted rituals that we have made for that family, that individual, whatever, based on their story, their history, their desires. So lots of people have said to us, am I allowed to do this? And our answer is always, to whatever that is, as long as it's not illegal, yes, you are allowed to do that. Let's create something based around that. Let's create a ritual, a ceremony with that at its core to express those emotions, feelings, and bookmark that moment in your journey, give you time to reflect on how you got there and what that means to your future. And it can be for anything, you know. Okay, I mean, we have talked a lot in the last 2 episodes about weddings, vow renewals, what we call, and what I call, especially not the non-wedding, that celebrations of love and unity, where we're not worried so much about doing the legal aspect, but really taking that emotion and sharing it, either just with the couples, or just with the family, or just with the very closest of friends, or with a much wider audience, however people want to do it, but doing it because of the story and not because of the legal side of things. So you as a celebrant have recently trained and are now a member of the Ovates Bards and Druids. Have I got that right? OBD?
Yes,
yeah.
OBOD.
And so you have been doing a lot on traditional and the story behind some of the rituals, and I thought it might be a really nice moment now for you to perhaps talk about some of the things that you've experienced as a result of that, because I'd be interested.
Well, a lot of people seem to be asking about hand fastings. You and I have spoken about them, and we love the whole imagery of it. It's very symbolically beautiful, and visualizing things as part of a ceremony, making a show of something is it's human tradition, isn't it? We love doing that. And so, yes, I've researched quite a lot into the history of hand fasting and where that came from. And like so many ancient traditions, lots of people claim parts of the heritage. And I think it's really important. It's a good moment perhaps to talk a bit about cultural appropriation. which is so important to understand why this is important. Somebody recently asked me, what gives you the right, what do you believe gives you the right to do a hand fasting? And my answer was kind of this. From what I understand historically of hand fasting, it's partly a Celtic tradition, and I am somebody living in Wales, in fact, in a very legendary, mythologically strong part of Wales, in Myddfai. The physicians of Myddfai and the legends around here are enormous. So it's culturally, that's appropriate. But when you go back further, some of the earliest hand fastings were carried out in ancient Egypt. Well, right. I'm adopted, but my birth mother is Egyptian. So wow. I love that I am now a, by birth, Egyptian woman living in historically Celtic land. And I can't think of a more appropriate reason to carry out a hand fasting. I would also say there are things I've been asked to do that I don't feel are appropriate. And I've explained why. And I've asked couples to go away and do the research and look at what they're asking people to do and say, does this belong in your culture? Or are you in any way disrespectful if you claim it? And so while we can have a bit of fun and use tradition, I do want to acknowledge that that's hugely important, that we know where the tradition comes from and what it is that feels appropriate. So with a hand fasting, I would say one of the wonderful things about many of the pagan faiths is they are all inclusive. So you are not appropriating a culture by using one of their symbolic rituals. Yeah, I agree. And in fact, many of them, particularly the Wiccan, who have this wonderful sense of you take and make what you will of what nature gives you, they would encourage people to try it and see how it felt. And if it feels right, do it. So with a hand fasting, there are no rules about which colours to use. If you are of a pagan faith, you may want to represent the earth, the air, the fire and the water. And often we use colours like red for fire, green to represent our connection to nature. White is often used for water as a sign of purity, and blue often for air. But again, there are no rules about this.
Absolutely. I lots of people who want it as part of their tying the knot, which is basically what it symbolizes, the joining together of two families, two people, to whatever you're joining together and acknowledging, and however you're doing that, the symbol is the tying of the knot, the joining together. And people who have taken it as not a full hand fasting, but the little bit that people often engage with within their own wedding or non-wedding or vows, they will use the colours that of their bridesmaids and what have you. So making
the colours should be colours that matter to you, shouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And what one of my couples is doing is they have invited we're doing as a multiple thing. So each member of the family is bringing a scarf or a ribbon in a colour or a fabric that matters to them, and we're tying those all together to make the ties to do the hand fasting.
That's gorgeous, isn't it? We recently did this for a couple using ribbon basically made from pieces of clothing from their ancestors. So from a grandmother, from a great grandmother, from an uncle, from relatives overseas who cut a piece of clothing and sent it so it could be used.
How wonderful.
That's so uniquely beautiful, isn't it? And of course, the other thing that can be used is rope, because hand fasting, the word comes from to make fast, which is a term from tying a ship to shore to make sure it was safe. I'm just grateful we live in the century we live in, Bernie, because the original hand fastings particularly they think just off the borders of Scotland, on the Isles of Scotland, the couple's hands were tied together for a month.
Yeah, oh gosh.
And I can't even imagine, you know, just an hour at a ceremony can be hilarious.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
actually, they also significantly were only designed to last for a year. And if at the end of the year, you still wanted to be in each other's company, you would stay together for life.
Right.
And I love the symbolism of that. We get a whole year to decide, do I still want to be in your company? That's such a beautiful phrasing, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's a choice. It's not about binding people together or belonging to each other. It is about a joining of minds and souls and spirits and connection, isn't it? And it can and you can make it. You can tweak it and make it, as you say, the Wiccans will encourage you to use their symbolism and tweak it and make it what is relevant to you. So hand fasting is a really good one to start with, and it doesn't have to be just for weddings and
no, absolutely.
Weddings
it's
either.
A beautiful one for adoption.
Really lovely.
As you know, I was adopted, and I've often said I wish I'd had some kind of thing to mark that felt like this symbolism represents now your new family.
Yeah,
belonging is so important. And for a child to feel this is my place, this is my safe space and my haven, to mark that with some kind of tying, again, that idea of being tied fast means to be secure, to be safe.
Yeah.
And so those ropes can symbolize something very beautiful. And to do that for a family, not a couple, but a family. Another thing you and I both talked about is when two families with children become one family with children.
Yeah.
Those children want to be involved in that. And so this can be their service.
It's a great symbolic way to involve them, isn't it? Whatever age they are, and assuming that they can walk, they can be or understand in any way. They can be involved in a hand fasting, because you can use as many. I mean, obviously, if you're using thick ropes, you're limited because we physically have to get them all together and tie them. But if you're using lightweight fabrics, you can have 20, 30 people bringing a length of whatever it is into the mix and tying them together.
I was lucky enough years ago to go to a wedding festival event. It was for 3 couples who all knew each other and wanted to do a big celebration. And they decided a hand fasting was too small, so they got a traditional maypole. And I don't know if you've ever seen a traditional, I had never seen one before, but it's like hand fasting on a massive scale.
Wonderful.
And they all danced in a way that plaited the ropes together. But these were kind of 15 foot tall, and it was an absolutely spectacular thing to do. But again, it was using that symbolism that comes from a tradition and saying, how can we make that celebration uniquely us? And many of the unity ceremonies that already exist, things like pouring sand, lighting candles, I've heard of some fairly sort of modern ceremonies that often involve alcohol. People have come up with these beautiful symbolic ideas, but very, very uniquely made them theirs. So I would encourage people to stop thinking they have to have the big thing to celebrate. The big thing for your family, or you as a couple, or you as a group of individuals, could be something that deserves to be celebrated, that you don't think of as a traditional ceremony. Now, you and I both have been lucky enough to be involved with families who have celebrated coming through illness.
Yes.
And as somebody myself who has too, on quite a major scale, I can't think of a better thing to celebrate.
I mean, that endurance and support, the support of your family, the value they've given you, the journey you have navigated, the strength you've had, and trauma you've had to endure, and you've survived it stronger or fitter, or despite or because of, and taking that time to to thank, celebrate, acknowledge that journey and where you are now compared with where you were is just a wonderful thing. And to do it with an event, a celebration, which can involve something, even there you can involve, a tying or a sand or any of those, any sort of created ritual. I mean, what I love about the sand, we were talking about that, is that, if you have recovered from an illness or a life-changing experience, and you have a community of people you want to thank, then involving something like a sand ceremony where you have lots of different coloured sands and you have a big glass bowl, and they are all mix their sand in, and you end up with this beautiful whole piece of art that has only exists because of all of those individuals bringing something to that table. And I think, I've been an artist, that having a visual representation of an emotion is just a wonderful thing to do. And sand is a great one for that. And all ages and all people, but involving a community in a celebration.
That's so beautiful, Berni, and I love the way you described that. The artist in you just brought that to life for me, that you are creating a piece of art. And every time you look at that again, you're going to remember that celebration and the ceremony and who did which bit and why that's important in your story. Yeah. And that, they say it takes a village to raise a child. Yeah. Anybody who's been really ill will tell you it takes a village of friends and a community to get through something. And so to acknowledge that is, you mentioned it when you talked about you and John, a gratitude ceremony. If the only thing you want to do is acknowledge being grateful for something, I can't think of anything better. That acknowledgement is what makes life worth all the effort and the struggle, isn't it?
Absolutely, beyond it, it really is. I mean, we very rarely realize the impact we have on other people's lives. And quite often the positive impact. We think, when we watch a friend struggling, whatever that may be, we think we're helpless. But what we don't realize is how grateful they are for the little things we've done, be that, whatever that is. And so if that person then wants to make a big thing of being grateful for that, or celebrating that moment or that journey, then enjoy it, do it, because we all are going through, particularly now, the last 3 years, I'm not going to go into it, but we've all been dealt a trying hand, haven't we? And we've all dealt with it in our different ways, and sometimes we've dealt with it well and sometimes we've dealt with it badly, but we've all pulled together through it because of 1 to 50 to 100 people around us and their influences that they have on us, and in some of those circumstances you might feel that you would have not done it, and it's worth a moment. So take a moment,
absolutely,
and make an event, celebrate it. Well, you've done, I think, I haven't yet, but I long to. You've done have you one for divorce or getting out of an abusive relationship or something like that? Those are occasions that are worth having a moment, and your friends who, celebrating with the friends who got you through that and the new life. Yeah,
that's a big deal. I have been very lucky to be involved in a couple of ceremonies where really what we're acknowledging is the future. It's very easy when you've come through trauma to focus on the trauma, and to see a future that doesn't involve that is very hard. And creating a moment where we say, this is it, this is that moment where we start the new chapter, where you have a new beginning with all these people who love and care for you. Yeah. By doing that, you give people who've come through something awful the chance to write a new story, to say, this can be my beautiful story, this can be my joyful story, and it's not going to have any of its roots in my negativity, my fear, my shame, we carry such huge burdens as human beings.
Yeah.
And when we give somebody this gift that so often comes from somebody who sees they need it, who contacts us and says, I just have this sense if we could mark something here, it would give her that springboard she needs to start something new, or give him the chance to see what the rest of us see he's capable of. And it does that because it is significant when you say, hey, somebody's doing this for us.
Yeah.
We've written a ceremony to mark the occasion. Suddenly you feel, gosh, I deserve a ceremony. Wow,
Yeah.
this must be a big deal.
Yeah.
We're not just noting, oh, I'm proud of you. Great, yeah, I'm proud of me too. No, I'm so proud of what you've done. We're going to celebrate it in this dramatically over the top, glorious way, so that we can all look at that moment in time and say, look, we did it. We're here.
Yeah.
We have that chance to do this new thing.
Yeah. And that becomes the memory, doesn't it?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, you're not getting rid of the past, but your memory of the past is the moment that you stepped into the future.
Yes, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I think, you know, and you look at that thing, that knot that you've had framed in a box frame, or that jar of mixed sand, or the photos from that occasion, or the script that we've handed over to remind them of the day. And, you know, when you're feeling, you know, low, or feeling or wanting to tell people what a wonderful journey you've been on, you can call on this moment where you had your full stop, you created your amazing moment, your breather, your promises, your acknowledgement of your journey, and you can reflect back on that.
Yes.
And share that as a stepping stone to the next thing all the time. And so
you know, another time when this is so significant, and I'm really privileged to have been involved in creating one of these ceremonies, is when you're ready and people have got you to that place. For people going through gender assignment surgery, when you finally receive that first document that acknowledges you as who you are, and has your name and your gender on it, to stand in a room and look at that on your own, that's not enough of a celebration. This is a moment that deserves a very symbolic new chapter. And often, for people going through this, the trauma is beyond our understanding. That moment of being able to say, I need to close the old chapter as well as starting the new one. So, for example, a beautiful bonfire on a beach where we have burned names and old words that don't belong anymore. And the symbolism of that is exquisite. And it's so releasing, because we as humans need that symbolism to help us express very often emotions that others can't understand. And when others who want to understand can see it and can see the significance, they can support us better. So I believe, isn't it?
It's thresholds. We're stepping over one into another. We're closing that door. We're moving into another, and it just, you know, visualization is very important in everything. We all do it all the time, don't we? I mean, even when we don't realize we're doing it, we're visualizing scenarios and situations. So to grow a visualization into a symbolic gesture, and to include, might just be you and the people directly involved, but it might be a wider circle of people in that symbolic gesture and visualization of a moment, has a profound impact on your mental well-being and thought process. I mean, we do it. I mean, everyone talks about mindfulness and taking a moment and visualizing calm to feel calm, or visualizing what the worst is that could happen to then dispel it, or whatever those things are. I mean, what we're talking with celebration or commemoration and these things is basically creating a visual memory,
Yes.
an emotional and visual memory that is quite impactful, that we can draw back on and pull back into our forefront of our minds, which will help.
And I
us
love
into
that
the
you
future.
mention. I love that you mentioned that, because I'm actually working with a couple at the moment where one of them is visually impaired, and her partner wants to make sure that they include something to stimulate the senses, that sound and smell, and because it's outdoors, because it's going to take place in somewhere that they grow a lot of lavender, we know that reminder, the trigger, is going to be different senses than sight. So we're looking at, can it also be near a stream perhaps, because that beautiful sound of running water connected with that scent will then help reconnect with that memory. I've worked with couples who love to take their shoes off and stand in the grass or in the woods, because that sense is grounding, isn't it? And we can look at all those kinds of ways that make it feel like we've connected with that moment.
That's another dimension to a sound ceremony, because you can do that with spices.
Oh,
so you can
that must be magical.
So you can mix your spices and make a blend, or teas, you know, you can do it with teas, mixing 10 blends of teas, all sorts of things. So I mean, these are ideas that are popping into my head.
That's beautiful, Bernie. I love the idea of doing that with teas.
Yeah.
Imagine the memories you have of a loved one that you always had tea with, and then using different teas to represent a piece of art, to think about them. That's a wonderful idea. And spices, gosh, that would be stunning, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, a real sense of a real sense. I mean, we underplay. I mean, I'm sure, like you were just talking about someone who is sight impaired, you know, how heightened their other senses are. But we all have the opportunity to, and we all do that, don't we? You know, a sound that brings back a really powerful memory, or a smell. For me, it's cut grass. You know, cut grass. I have.
Do you know what it is for me? And you're going to get this instantly. It's my grandma cooking chicken soup with Canadian. Oh, I can imagine the smell, and I'm instantly in her kitchen, and that security of grandparent feeling. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Me, for my grandparents, it's geraniums. They always had geraniums on the windowsill, and they always put the tea dregs in the geraniums to feed.
That's where you get your gardening skill then.
And the smell of geraniums, I can see the back parlour of my grandma's house. But so,
you know, it's wonderful to note, if you are creating a ceremony, note these things, think about these things. What is it that actually reminds me of the people I want to celebrate? What is it that we do together or did together that are the important things? You and I have often said it is the small things that matter. It's not really the big things. It's those tiny things that somebody gets about you without you having to explain it. It's the way you can finish each other's sentences, or know when it's time to leave without having to say it, and those are the moments that, when we're creating a celebration or a ceremony to mark something, those are the kind of things you want to include.
Absolutely. I mean, so that's probably a wonderful moment to wind down on, because basically what we're saying is you can have a ceremony for anything, in any legal, I always use legal just as a joke, as long as we're not breaking any laws, we can do absolutely anything, in any way, in any location, to celebrate anything. And we should. We really should.
We really, really deserve to have more celebrations, more points in our life we can look back on and say, I'm glad we celebrated that. It was important, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you, Bernie. As always, loved our conversation.
I know.
And thank you to everybody for joining us. Don't forget, you can find us on Facebook, Ask a Celebrant. You can connect with either of us on Instagram. Bernie, your Insta is?
Alternative Celebrant.
And I'm Dinah_Celebrant. I hope we connect soon, and we look forward to speaking to you next month.
Yes, wait for next month. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye for now.
Love everyone. Bye.
Ask a Celebrant is unscripted, and we base it on the questions we receive from our clients and you, our listeners. We'd love to hear from you. Do join the conversation.
See you next month.